2023 through 2024 preseason guide, part one series of for the upcoming season. A couple of rule changes coming in for this year. Team members equipment apparel 3-5-6 pertains to the visiting team only. The visiting team is now allowed to wear a black undershirt under their dark away jerseys. As you can see in these play pics, they have black on with a red jersey, or they must be the predominant color of the jersey, and in this case would be red, as you see in these pictures. Once again, this only pertains to the visiting team only. Also, they must be matching. As you see in this play pic, that one is wearing black, one is wearing red. They must be matching. They do not have to be shoulder length and cut off matching, but the colors have to be matching. We got to check this in our pregame and make sure everybody is adhering to this. So far in the varsity level games that I'm watching, especially in the lower classifications that are playing right now, are adhering to this rule change. But once again, this pertains to the visiting team only, and team members must be wearing the same color. So here's a couple live pictures from this year. White team has got white on underneath. Number 1, number 4, 32, and another one down the line all have white undershirts on. That is legal. They cannot be wearing black, or they cannot be wearing blue. They have to be wearing white only. The visiting team here, you can see a jumper and a non-jumper have black on. That is perfectly legal per the rule change. So if a team is wearing a black jersey, they must be wearing a black undershirt and nothing else. They can't be wearing red, they can't be wearing white. It has to be black, and they have to be matching. If this team was wearing a green jersey, then the black undershirt would be legal under the new rule change. The resumption of play procedure for throw-ins, 7-5-2. We have the 4 throw-in spots in the front court now. It's only after a violation or a foul before a team is in the bonus. Follow a stoppage of play. The throw-in location will be determined by the location of the violation or foul, or the location of the ball when stoppage occurs. So if we had a foul around the 28-foot mark, then the throw-in spot would be at the sideline out of bounds at the 28-foot mark. If it happened below the diagonal dashed line that you see coming from the free throw line to the corner, then it goes down to that end line to one of the 3-foot marks based on the side of the floor that the foul or violation occurred. If a team calls a timeout, then it goes to one of the 4 spots based on where they're at on the floor, according to this diagram. If a ball goes out of bounds, is tipped out of bounds, then that is where the ball went out of bounds, will be where the throw-in is determined. And that's only out of bounds only. So as you can see in this play, it gets tipped out of bounds by black and should be thrown in right there where 0 white is, since it went out of bounds right there. But in this case, for whatever reason, the crew has brought it out to the 28-foot mark, which is incorrect. This is an out of bounds play that is just tipped out, and it's at the throw-in spot where the ball went out of bounds, and not the 28-foot mark. Same thing, we got another play down here in the deep sideline next to the corner. We go out of bounds, it stays offensive player's ball. It goes out of bounds down close to the corner at the end of the bench. It goes to where it went out for the throw-in. Does not come up to the 28-foot mark. Once again, this pertains to out of bounds only. If it goes out of bounds and the opposite team retains possession, and it's from the throwing spot where it went out of bounds, and not one of the 4 spots. Backcourts. As you can read here, all backcourt violations. The opponent is awarded a possession throw-in its front court at one of the 4 designated spots near the violation. So any backcourt violation that happens, whether they step on the backcourt or the ball's thrown in the backcourt and picked up, around the 28-foot mark or lower, or if they pick it up in the lane, it goes to the baseline. Make sure you put the ball out for the throw-in at one of the 4 spots near where the violation occurred. So as you can see in this video, White is dribbling down the floor, and it was in backcourt status where player 2 jumps from the front court, catches the ball in the air, lands in the backcourt. That is a backcourt violation. So by rule, Red's front court, since the violation happened and it was a backcourt violation, will go to the sideline where the opposite table at the 28-foot mark in Red's front court for the throw-in. All backcourt violations go to one of the 4 spots where the violation occurred. So in this case, it happened around the half-court line, opposite table, so Red's throw-in will be at the 28-foot mark in their front court, opposite the table, opposite the bench. Same thing here, White's being pressed. They bobble it around, and he has a backcourt violation by being 4 Whites in the front court, then touches the ball, goes backcourt, steps out of bounds, grabs it. Backcourt violation at the division line. So in this case, once again, all backcourt violations will be Black's ball on this play or Red's ball on this play at the 28-foot mark, bench side. One more time. All backcourt plays go to one of the 4 spots where the violation occurred. And this one happened on the division line, table side. This will go to a throw-in spot at the 28-foot mark on bench side for Red's front court. I threw this play in there because it's a stoppage of play, and coaches need to haven't understood this rule yet, and so we need to be on top of it when they do figure it out. So they are dribbling it very slowly to the front court, and coach calls a timeout. So the stoppage of play happens in the back court. So when we resume play, the throwing spot's going to be right there between the and the opposite bench in the back court. Now, if White had advanced this ball across half court and called a timeout to where the P is, or in between the E and the P, then the stoppage of play was because of the timeout, and therefore White's throw-in spot would be down at the 28-foot mark opposite table. Once again, all the four front court throw-in spots only is determined by stoppage in play, a violation, or foul. So in this case, if he had crossed front court and called a timeout and was standing on the P when the timeout occurred, then their throw-in spot when we resume play would be at the 28-foot mark opposite table. But since they called timeout on the backcourt, it goes back here where the ball was when timeout was granted. So these are things I throw out there to keep in mind as we move forward into the season. And coaches will start figuring it out if they're starting to strategize a little bit more. Now, if he had crossed the front court into the front court and the ball got tipped out by Black and then White called a timeout, then the ball goes for the throw-in spot when we resume play where it went out of bounds, because the stoppage of play was the out of bounds and not the timeout. If he come across the front court and we had a foul on Black and then there was a timeout, we put the throw-in spot at the 28-foot mark or one of the 4 spots where the foul occurred, based on our diagram. So keep all those things in mind. Front court status in the four throwing spots only is determined by a foul or violation or stopping your play, like a timeout, an inadvertent whistle, you got an injury timeout, uh, what a clock malfunction, whatever the case may be, then that's going to be at one of the four spots. The only time you do not take it at one of the four spots is on a out of bounds play. Another scenario would be, let's say Black stole the ball in the front court, stepped out of bounds. It goes to the White would get the throw-in spot where he stepped out of bounds and not one of the four spots because it was an out of bounds, not a foul or a double dribble, anything like that. It has to do with if it was deflected out of bounds or thrown out of bounds. But all in four spots, once again, is determined by stoppage in play, foul, violation, timeouts, etc. A simple out of bounds where it's deflected out of bounds is at the throw-in, is where it went out of bounds for throwing spot. If you have any questions, please let us know, and we hope you have a great season.